Hi everyone, my name is Zareth and today I'll be showing you how to overclock your NVIDIA GTX 780 and your NVIDIA GTX 780 SLI graphics card configurations. First and foremost, I want to give a warning that I am not responsible if you brick or damage your video cards when overclocking. Overclocking can decrease the life of your card, increase heat generation from the cards, cause system crashes, and your system will have increased power draw and more. Do this at your own risk. Now that's over with, we can get to the good stuff. In the description below, I have put some links to the software used in this video. Firstly, EVGA Precision X is used to overclock and monitor any NVIDIA card, and GPU-Z is used to monitor your video card. You can see these programs currently open on the desktop at the moment. Secondly, I recommend you download a benchmarking tool such as Heaven Benchmark so you can see the results before and after you overclock and compare the performance increase. For the purpose of this guide, I will be using the Heaven's benchmarking tool and will show you the results at the end of the video, but there are plenty of other benchmarking tools out there and I have put a link to some in the description below. Overclocking is relatively easy using Precision X, and as you can see there are 4 main settings you can change as well as the voltage. But for the purpose of this guide, we will not really be playing with the voltage changer within the program, which can be accessed on the left hand side by clicking the voltage button. First off, I want you to go and run a benchmark with your cards at stock clocks and note down the results for later. If you're using Heaven's benchmark, it should give you an option to save this as a HTML file, and for the purpose of this guide, you can see my settings that I will be using for stock test and the overclocked test. So now that the stock benchmark is done, open up Precision X, and first we are going to need to change the power target percentage. This will allow you to up the power going to the card, and if this isn't changed, your overclock will be limited by the amount of power going to the card, no matter how high your GPU clock and memory clocks are. So it's important to set this correctly so your core clock and memory clock speeds you set are working correctly. For this guide, I will be setting it to about 102% power target and temperature target to 84 degrees. Now we need to change the core clock speed, which is the GPU clock offset, and the memory clock speed, which is the memory clock offset. I recommend that if you're a complete novice to only increase the core clock by about 5 to 6%, as the GTX 780s as stock cards are amazing without the overclock. However, the cards can overclock much further, and if you overclock higher and start to notice artifacting such as white snowy effect or other errors in game or system crashes, back both clock speeds down in increments of 10 to 20 MHz until the system is stable again. But I must reiterate, if you do this, do it at your own risk. Once everything is set, click Apply and check the clock speeds have changed in GPU-Z. Once overclock is applied, I recommend setting a custom fan curve within Precision X. To do this, simply click on the fan curve button on the right hand side and then click Enable Software Automatic Fan Control. I recommend using the settings I have shown on the screen at the moment, as this will almost match the fan speed to the current temperature of the cards. I have found while overclocking, this keeps the temps lower than expected, which is a good thing. Next, click the General tab and make sure that Start with Windows and Start Minimize is checked, and then click OK. Now that your overclock is all done, it's time to start doing some benchmarks and compare results to see the performance increase. I recommend you leave your system on for 24 hours to make sure it is stable, and a word of warning, with the current NVIDIA drivers, the drivers will crash after 36 hours and can also cause a complete system crash. Hopefully this will be fixed in a future driver update, so make sure you reset or shut down your PC before that time comes around. So on to the results. On the left hand side you can see my stock benchmarks. In the middle you can see my benchmarks for the 5 to 6% overclock. And on the right hand side you can see my results from my 10 to 11% overclock. And as you can see, the 5% overclock gave me about 5 extra frames per second, and the 10% overclock gave me about an extra 10 frames per second as well. Please note that these results are from 2 GTX 780s in SLI configuration. And for your reference, I've also put what the core clock speed and the mem clock speeds for each overclock were in the description below. So as a recap, here are some bullet points of what you need to remember when overclocking. Run a benchmark before you overclock. Set power target between 102 and 105% depending on your clock speeds. Set core clock and memory clock to about 5 or 6% if you're a novice. Apply your overclock and check that the core clock and mem clock speeds are changed in GPU-Z. Apply a custom fan curve. Run a benchmark to compare performance increases. Make sure Precision X is set to start with Windows. Leave your system on for 24 hours to test stability. Drivers will crash after 36 hours, make sure to reset or shut down before this occurs. So as you can see, overclocking the GTX 780 is pretty straightforward, and this process can be applied to any EVGA card as well. My name is Arith, and this has been a how-to guide to overclock your GTX 780. Thanks for watching.